দর্শক আমন্ত্রণ জানাচ্ছি চ্যানেল 24 এর সাপ্তাহিক আয়োজন মুখোমুখিতে প্রতি পর্বেই আমরা একটা বিশেষ ইস্যু নিয়ে কথা বলে থাকি এবং বিশেষ ইস্যু নিয়ে কথা বলার জন্য আমাদের সাথে থাকে বিশেষ অতিথি। আজকে আমাদের সাথে আছে ইন্টারন্যাশনাল ক্রিমিনাল কোর্টের আইসিসি প্রসিকিউটরের অফিসের অন্যতম একজন পরিচালক মিস্টার ফাকিসো মোচোচোকো। I guess I pronounce your name correctly.
You're right. Fakiso Mochochoko.
Yeah, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I guess it's your second time in Bangladesh, and ICC is doing the investigation on the individuals that tried to kill or tried to demolish all the people, Rohingya people, Muslim Rohingyas in Myanmar. So there is a very significant difference between ICC and ICJ and how they work. Would you like to describe on that?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Yes, this is my second time here in Bangladesh. In the earlier days when I came here, it was the earlier days of the process in the office of the prosecutor, where the prosecutor was collecting information, not evidence, to try and establish whether the legal criteria under the statute were met for her to start an investigation. She submitted that information to the judges. It is about holding those allegedly responsible for the most serious crimes of concern to the international community. These are crimes against humanity, war crimes, genocide, and the crime of aggression.
Right.
These are the crimes that have been prescribed under Rome Statute and on which the ICC, in particular the Office of the Prosecutor, has been mandated to investigate and prosecute. The International Court of Justice deals with disputes between states and among states. For example, in the current context of the Rohingya, the case that is before the International Court of Justice is between the government of Gambia and the Myanmar. And Gambia was seeking provisional measures that the International Court of Justice should order Myanmar to take measures to protect the Rohingyas. So that is what the difference is now. ICC is about individual criminal responsibility, while the ICJ deals with disputes between and among states.
Right. And in the ICJ, we heard that a lot of people been named, some army senior officials, even Aung San Suu Kyi herself. So, and they've been blamed, they had some investigation being done by different people and they sort of presented that. So can those evidence can be counted when ICC will do the investigation?
Every information that is out there that is available will be very useful to the ICC. But at the end of the day, the ICC has got to do its own independent, impartial, and objective investigations. It cannot just take that information locked, stock, but it cannot take that just information. In particular, because the purposes for which the ICC collects evidence is different, is for it to establish criminal responsibility. So unlike the other mechanisms, ICC, its role is to establish criminal responsibility. So even the methods that it will use to collect and to test the information that the evidence that is different, because it is for purposes of presenting this evidence before the judges so that the judges can make their own independent determination as to whether somebody is guilty or not.
Right. So you collect the evidence and you bring it to justice and to start the investigation. What happens after the verdict that he or she is given guilty or tried to do some genocide or tried to kill any people or anything like that?
The process under the Rome Statute is that once the prosecutor has collected enough evidence, she then presents that evidence to the judges. The judges will then assess it and then determine whether somebody needs to come and answer for that case. And if the judges decide that somebody needs to come and answer for that case, they issue what is called a warrant of arrest against that person.
Okay.
Now, the responsibility to arrest and surrender people alleged to have committed these crimes rests with the states. It is for the states to arrest these people and hand them over to the ICC. The ICC itself does not have a police force of its own. It does not have an army. So it relies on the cooperation and the assistance of states in arresting and surrendering individuals that are found, that the judges have found to be necessary for them to come before the court.
On this part of the discussion, I have to go for a break. We'll come back and discuss more. দর্শক, আমরা কথা বলছিলাম আইসিসি প্রসিকিউটরের পরিচালকের সাথে, অফিসের পরিচালকের সাথে। তো এই বিষয়ে আমরা আরো কথা বলবো। আমাদের সাথে থাকুন, ফিরছি একটু বিরতির পর। আমন্ত্রণ আরো একবার মুখোমুখিতে আমরা কথা বলছিলাম আইসিসি প্রসিকিউটর অফিসারের পরিচালক ফাকিস মুখোসের সাথে। Welcome to the show once again. As we've been talking that the warrant will be issued. It's very interesting because Myanmar is not part of the ICC jurisdiction, and when the state itself involved in the crime, how they will issue a warrant, even if you give the verdict that he or she or some military officer or some of the people or all the people are directly involved.
And the warrant is issued by the judges of the International Criminal Court,
Right.
and then transmitted to states where the person is believed to be, and it is for those states to arrest and surrender this person to the ICC. Now, this is a peculiar situation. This is a challenge that the institution faces, in that the responsibility to arrest and surrender rests with the state. And this is not a situation that is going to be peculiar to Myanmar, not only because it's not a state party. Currently, there are 15 arrest warrants that are outstanding. 15, where people that the judges have found that it's necessary for them to come and answer have not yet been arrested.
And if the state is not listening to the ICC, what's the next step? Do ICC report like ICJ reports to Security Council?
Yes.
Or any other bodies that may force that particular state to bring that particular person in for the hearing?
The ICC is an institution, and it has been created under the Rome Statute. And under the Rome Statute, states have signed and ratified this Rome Statute.
Right.
They have undertaken obligations. There are currently 123 states parties to the Rome Statute. This 123 states parties constitute the governing body of the ICC. So if any of the states violates any of the provisions of the statute, the only duty that the ICC has is to report them to the other member states. It's like a club.
Okay.
If you're a member of a club, you break the rules of the club, you don't expect the secretariat of the club to run after you. You report that to the club members, and it is for the club members to see what they can do with one of theirs who breaks the rules.
Right. In
So
that sense, Myanmar is safe because they're not a club member.
No, it is not safe. It is not safe in the sense that, at least in Myanmar, even though it is not a state party, ICC has got jurisdiction in terms of the crime of deportation, which is the one that the ICC is investigating and prosecuting now. The crime of deportation entails people crossing borders. It is unlike other crimes. If there was just a crime that was committed in Myanmar, clearly ICC would not have jurisdiction. But in terms of the law, and in terms of what the judges have already found, is that now, if people are displaced, even though the crime starts off in Myanmar, it ends up in a state party, which is Bangladesh. Therefore, ICC has got jurisdiction over that.
Right.
Yeah.
So in such cases, how long it takes? Because it's not an easy thing to do. You're trying to investigate, if I'm not wrong, impartially, from the humanitarian perspective, and you try to make the rule of law established. So it's a long process, but how long is the process takes normally when you, from the collecting evidence to the investigation and then proving someone guilty?
It really depends from case to case. Depends from case to case and the challenges that each case comes up with its own unique circumstances, challenges that have got to be taken care of. In some cases, it is very easy to get the evidence because a state that has referred the situation cooperates with the ICC. The challenge that we'll face in Myanmar is that there's no cooperation with Myanmar.
They are still not cooperating with you,
sorry?
if I'm not wrong. They are still not cooperating with you?
No, they're not cooperating. They're not cooperating. At least so far, they're not cooperating with the ICC. And, but we are still continuing and hoping that one day they'll cooperate, because this case will go ahead with or without their cooperation. In an ideal situation, we would want to have information from Myanmar and work with Myanmar to see whatever they are doing and to get the evidence from their side. But if they are not willing to do so and they don't want to cooperate with us, we'll have no choice but to proceed on the basis of the information that we have. It is not the first time that we have had a situation like this one on Myanmar, where in Sudan, where we were
I was about to ask you this question, how long it takes for Sudan?
Yeah, Sudan is taken us about maybe 7 up to 10 years. again because of the difficulty that we did not have access to Sudan. We could not talk to witnesses who were in Sudan. We could not access documents that were in Sudan. But now with the opening up and easing up of the situation in Sudan, we are hoping that we will be able now to engage much more with Sudan.
So we can assume that it will take another 10 to 15 years for Myanmar or this case?
I wouldn't want to speculate. It depends on how it may happen. The beauty of the ICC is that it is here to stay. It's a permanent institution. And we have seen that the world changes. Things change for better or for worse. And our hope is that now things will change. Maybe in Myanmar also, there will be a softening of hearts to see that now they need to cooperate with us. So we'll see. We'll just take our time. We'll do what we have got to do. But the determination by the Office of the Prosecutor to get to the bottom of this, to uncover the truth of what happened, and to bring justice to the victims, the Rohingya victims, that determination remains unwavered, and it will continue with or without the support.
Right.
And
no one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
On this point of discussion, we'll take another break and then come back. দর্শক, আমরা কথা বলছিলাম যে আইসিসি যে বিচার প্রক্রিয়া সেটা আসলে কতদিন সময় লাগে। উনি বলছিলেন সুদানের ক্ষেত্রে প্রায় 10 বছর সময় লেগে গিয়েছিল, মিয়ানমারের ক্ষেত্রে কতদিন লাগতে পারে সেই বিষয়টা উনি এখনই স্পেকুলেট করতে চান না, কিন্তু হয়তো বা এমন সময় লাগতে পারে। আলোচনা চলবে, আমরা ফিরছি একটা বিরতির পর, সাথে থাকুন। আমন্ত্রণ আরো একবার মুখোমুখিতে আমাদের সাথে আছে আইসিসি প্রসিকিউটর অফিসারের অন্যতম পরিচালক ফাকিসো। Once again, welcome. So we really went deep into this discussion, and I really want to know how you collect evidence.
Firstly, to emphasize that the methods of evidence collection in itself or investigation by themselves, by their nature, are confidential.
Okay.
So we will not know exactly what the Office of the Prosecutor is doing. We will not know exactly what the investigators are doing, because to do that will just be to dispose ourselves.
Myanmar is not giving you the space. How can you cross-check all the situation? Of course, that is done. There is no doubt the intention of genocide was there. Even when Myanmar itself made the commission and came out of the reports before the ICJ hearing been published.
The obligation in the Office of the Prosecutor is not only to investigate incriminating evidence. It is also to investigate exonerating evidence. If we find something that says contradictory to what the people are saying, we've got to investigate that, and at the end of the day, we'll have to present that to the lawyers for the accused person, and for them to be able to use that. That is where the fairness of the process is. As I've said, in ideal situation, we should be able to go to Myanmar and be able to talk to the alleged perpetrators or anyone else that we need to talk to, so that we can have the fairness and fairness of the balance. But unfortunately, we are not able to do so. Ultimately, it will be for the judges to decide, and where the evidence on both sides to decide whether the guilt or whether the person is guilty or not.
Right. In that case, Aung San Suu Kyi can be also arrested if that is proved.
No one is above the law. If the evidence indicates to anybody, if the evidence implicates anyone, whether you are a leader, whether you're an army commander, whoever you are, if the evidence implicates or shows that you are the one that committed these crimes, or that you allegedly committed these crimes, then you'll have a case to answer before the judges. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is to come before the judges. And if you believe that you are innocent, then come before the judges, and the judges will then be able to determine whether you are guilty or innocent.
Thank you so much for coming to the studio and sharing the views and how ICC run. It's a good for us to learn, and I believe whoever the Rohingyas watching throughout the world living in Bangladesh, they also want to thank ICC for whatever they're doing.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. This is going to be quite a long and challenging process. We hope that the listeners, the Rohingyas, and everybody else will bear with us as we embark on this process. Ultimately, the determination to find justice for the victims, and to also make sure that there is accountability for the suffering of the victims, of the Rohingya victims, that is the determination, and we should all stay focused on this and as we proceed in this joint venture. Thank you very much.
Thank you. দর্শক, আমরা কথা বলছিলাম আইসিসি প্রসিকিউটর অফিসের পরিচালক ফাসিকো মোচোচোকোর সাথে। তার দাবি, কেউ আইনের ঊর্ধ্বে নয়, অপরাধ যেই করুক সেই শাস্তি পাবে। বিশেষ করে জাতিগত নিধনের যে চেষ্টা মিয়ানমার থেকে করা হয়েছে, সেই শাস্তি সেই অপরাধের সাথে যারা জড়িত তারা প্রত্যেকে সেই শাস্তি পাবে। দেখা হবে মুখোমুখির অন্য কোনো পর্বে। ভালো থাকুন, সুস্থ থাকুন।